Throughout history, wars have not been won by swords and cannons alone. No matter how powerful the numbers or weapons, true victory often lies in the commander's intelligence, strategy, and precise maneuvers. Mind and planning can sometimes shatter entire armies and change the course of history in an instant. Hannibal, Battle of Cannae, 216 BC. In 216 BC, one of the most critical moments of the Second Punic War took place, the Battle of Cannae. The Roman Republic had assembled a massive army of approximately 80,000 men to stop Hannibal's advance into Italy. Hannibal, however, commanded only 50,000 soldiers. The numerical disadvantage seemed significant, but Hannibal's strength lay in strategy and intelligence. The Roman army relied on its sheer numbers, believing it could easily defeat Hannibal. Hannibal, however, devised a tactic that would go down in history, the double envelopment. He placed his weaker infantry at the center and ordered them to gradually retreat. As the Roman soldiers pressed forward, Hannibal's line curved inward. The Roman commanders mistook it for a full retreat and continued their assault. At that critical moment, Hannibal's flanking units and cavalry struck. The Roman cavalry was scattered, and the center, now flanked, was encircled from behind. The result? The Roman army was completely surrounded with no escape. Approximately 50,000 soldiers perished, marking Rome's greatest defeat. Cannae stands as a masterpiece in military strategy, demonstrating how tactical brilliance can overcome numerical superiority, and it is still studied in military academies today. Nimitz, Battle of Midway, June 22, 1942. June 1942 marked a pivotal moment in the Pacific, the Battle of Midway. The Japanese Empire, following Pearl Harbor, aimed to consolidate dominance in the Pacific and capture Midway. They had numerical superiority, but the U.S. commander, Admiral Chester Nimitz, understood the power of intelligence and strategy. The U.S. cryptology team had broken Japanese codes and learned much of their plan. Nimitz turned this intelligence into a strategic advantage, luring the Japanese fleet into an ambush. Relying on a small number of aircraft carriers to bait a much larger force was risky, but timing was everything. When the battle commenced, U.S. aircraft launched a sudden attack and struck the Japanese carriers. 3 of the 4 carriers were sunk, crippling Japan's operational capabilities. Midway not only changed the course of the war, but proved that intelligence and strategy could outweigh sheer force. Eisenhower, D-Day, Normandy, June 6, 1944. On June 6, 1944, history's largest amphibious assault began, the Normandy invasion, or D-Day. General Dwight Eisenhower, as supreme commander of the Allied forces, coordinated millions of troops. But the plan was more than just numbers. German defenses were strong, beaches were mined, and weather conditions uncertain. Eisenhower's strategy involved multiple layers: deception operations to mislead the Germans, securing air and naval superiority, coordinating the landings with precision. Early in the morning, troops stormed the beaches. Chaos was inevitable: bombardments, machine gun fire, and mines. Yet Eisenhower's planning prevailed. The Allies secured a foothold, establishing a strong front in Normandy. The operation proved that meticulous planning, coordination, and leadership were essential to changing the course of history. Napoleon, Waterloo, June 18, 1815. On June 18, 1815, a battle that would decide Europe's fate took place, Waterloo. Napoleon sought to regain control over Europe, facing the Anglo-Prussian coalition led by Wellington. Napoleon's plan relied on rapid, decisive attacks. However, muddy terrain, weather conditions, and the disciplined coalition forces prevented his plan from succeeding. By the end of the day, Napoleon's army was defeated, suffering heavy losses, and his ambition to dominate Europe was ended. Waterloo highlighted the crucial roles of strategy, logistics, and timing. Stalingrad, Zhukov and Paulus perspective, 1942-1943. Winter 1942. The ruined streets of Stalingrad became the stage for a confrontation between the Soviets and Germans. This was more than urban combat. It was a battle of morale, logistics, and survival. Paulus, German perspective. We have a trained and numerically strong army, but city fighting is lethal. Our supply lines are stretched, soldiers are hungry and exhausted. Tactics alone no longer suffice. Morale and resources are decisive. Zhukov, Soviet perspective. Every corner provides an advantage, every building a defensive point. With winter, German logistics collapsed. Operation Uranus encircled the Sixth Army. There's no escape. Ultimately, the German Sixth Army surrendered. Stalingrad became a turning point, demonstrating how logistics, morale, and environment can determine victory.
Nelson, Trafalgar, October 21, 1805. On October 21, 1805, the British Royal Navy faced the combined French-Spanish fleet in the Atlantic. Nelson commanded a smaller but disciplined fleet. Nelson's tactic was unconventional: split the enemy line and cut through it to neutralize their ships. Throughout the battle, he combined courage with strategy, but was fatally wounded by enemy fire. Despite his death, the British fleet triumphed and naval supremacy passed to England. Nelson's legacy endured, showcasing the power of innovation and calculated risk over numbers. Siege of Vienna, Sobieski, and Defense Commander, 1683. In the summer of 1683, the Ottoman Empire besieged Vienna. The city's commanders and citizens resisted with limited resources. Defense Commander: hunger and disease plague us, but surrender is not an option. Europe's heart stands here. Sobieski: we will coordinate with allies and break the siege. A swift cavalry assault is key. On September 13th, the combined forces struck the Ottoman lines, lifting the siege and saving the city. This victory halted Ottoman advances into Europe. Modern Cannae: small force, big impact. Hannibal's victory at Cannae in 216 BC showed how a small force could achieve decisive results through strategy. Modern conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq illustrate the same principle. Taliban and insurgent groups used guerrilla tactics and terrain knowledge to counter numerically superior armies. Small, agile forces can exploit enemy weaknesses to achieve significant outcomes. Kennedy, Cuban Missile Crisis, October 1962. October 1962, the world's attention focused on Cuba. The Soviet Union had deployed nuclear missiles there, creating a direct confrontation risk with the US. Kennedy's task was not just to make decisions, but to prevent a global nuclear disaster. Using both secret and public diplomatic channels, he communicated with the Soviets, imposed a naval blockade, and carefully managed risks. After days of tension, the Soviets backed down. Kennedy's composure, leadership, and crisis management changed the course of history, marking one of the most critical moments of the Cold War.